the Declaration of Independence. He said, principally and first of all, I give and recommend my soul into the hands of God that gave it, and my body I recommend to the earth, nothing doubting, but at the general resurrection I shall receive the same again by the mercy and power of God. John Hancock, he's the biggest signer on the Declaration of Independence. He signed it big. And the reason he signed it big is I want George to be able to see and read this, my signature. So then there was another, John Jay. He was our first Chief Justice of the Supreme Court. Providence has given to our people the choice of their rulers, and it is the duty as well as the privilege and interest of our Christian nation to select and prefer Christians for their rulers. Some of our politicians in the last election urged people, Christians, to get out to vote and Christians to run for office.
That's right.
You know? Then there was Henry Knox. He was a Revolutionary War general. He said to the supreme head of the universe, to the great and tremendous Jehovah, who created the universal frame of nature, worlds, and systems in number infinite, to this awfully sublime being do I resign my spirit with unlimited confidence of his mercy and protection.
Wow.
They had complete faith in God. Charles Carroll, he was a signer of the Declaration of Independence. He said, without morals, a republic cannot subsist any length of time. They, therefore, who are decrying the Christian religion, whose morality is so sublime and pure, are undermining the solid foundations of morals, the best security for the duration of free governments. The best security for the duration of free governments. Foundations of morals. They understood how important morals were, how important was that the Word of God was, and like I mentioned earlier, their purpose was to bring the people of the 13 colonies, bring them the Word of God. Bring them the Word of God. Get them established on it. Our country being established upon the Word of God. And when people say today, we don't need all of that Bible. We don't need all that Bible reading. And, you know, they've worked hard to get it out of our schools. But let me tell you, every student has the right, constitutional right, to take a Bible to school with them. They have a constitutional right to read the Bible, as long as it doesn't interfere with their studies or interfere with the teacher. On their free time, like their lunchtime and their recess and all this, they have the right to gather and pray. They have the right to gather before school and pray. They have the right to the Word of God. Nobody can come along and take that away from them legally. And you remember a few years ago we had a bunch of kids gather around the flagpole, and it was in Metropolis. And I was in Metropolis at the time. I was pastoring a church. This was like 84, 85 when we go back that far. And they tried to arrest some of them kids. You know, because they were praying on school property.
Yeah.
But they had every right to do that. It was before school, and you know, schools today cannot mandate and tell our kids that they can't be a Christian, that they can't read the Bible, they can't practice their belief and their faith in God while they're at school. It's a bunch of baloney. You know?
I remember in first grade class when I was in first grade that every morning before school started, when we would actually be gathered in our classroom, the principal back then we had loudspeakers, and the principal's voice would come over the loudspeaker every morning, and she would actually pray.
Yeah.
Pray for our classes and pray for our students.
Yeah.
Pray for the teachers.
Yep.
The whole way that the school was being run, and then before our teacher would pray in class for the students, and then at lunchtime before we went over to the cafeteria to eat food, our teacher would ask God to bless our food, and we would thank God for our food.
Yeah.
You know, it was just a natural thing.
Yeah.
And of course, this was before you know, they took prayer out of our schools. But back then, it was just a natural thing. We didn't think anything about it. And I feel like it really did help our schools because, you know, we can talk about what's happened in our schools. We can talk about that for hours and hours and hours, and people will have different opinions and viewpoints and so forth. But let me tell you something. When they took prayer out of our schools, it did impact our schools.
Yeah.
It impacted them. I mean, and it wasn't for the good. It was for the negative.
It
And
was-
you can argue. You can say you might have differing viewpoints and so forth. You might have different things that you'd like to say about why our schools are in the condition they're in today.
Yeah.
But when they took prayer out of schools, it did impact our schools. Because God was no longer, he was no longer going to have his influence in the schools like he had at
Well,
one time.
It was kind of really they presented it that way. Actually, constitutionally, they could not have done it. They didn't go through the proper channels and all that, and they can't do it. But it was certainly left everybody with that impression. They can no longer pray in school.
Yeah.
But have you read Jay Sekulow's book? You know, he's a
Yeah, Jay
Christian
Sekulow,
attorney,
uh-huh.
and he has a whole thing prepared about this for kids who might have a right to pray in school and all that. And I would urge everybody, you know, get a copy of that if you can. If you have children in school, definitely tell them they have a right to pray and read their Bible in school. And so we'll be back with the next session. Thank you for watching, and God bless you. Be sure to click like and share and subscribe on YouTube and Facebook. So, and be praying for America.
Yes.
The most important thing, pray for America.
Yes.
God bless you.